Hi, I'm Jim Sullivan. Welcome to Boston Rock Talk. Today we have a band from Philadelphia and New York. They are Cymbals Eat Guitars. We'll be talking with them after this. Guys, go.
Made it to the manor tree, Lena lying at my feet. I see imperfect folly. That was only, I would say. Now there's music I can't hear. Doesn't seem like 16 years. Relics from another life. A blanket catch and beaches rising. the bad boys on Aramco. Vegas full up with fireworks and young people. Get in instead with Alex's red ball. Watch his step man, his precious cargo, and it landed like a joke. Like rubber banded bundles and open. How many universes in my life and dead? Who knew every second about the least resistance can make it matter? My life is sliding by. I'll go insane. Side streets are Kensington. His eyes are X's and his head's out the window and rolls right over some families warming candle. Catch the engine, gets out and lights a cigarette. The dad is spitting mad. He brought a scary uncle gun in his waistband. How many universes in my life and dead? Who knew every second? And in the bed in Bo's head. Can't make it matter more. Can't make it matter more. Can't make it matter more. My life is sliding by. I really know these kids a little old for this. The city's dangerous. I guess I'm fine. My depression suddenly lifted. All the adrenaline shocked my nervous system. So I'd be present and grateful for every second. Later the feeling faded, I couldn't help it. How many universes in my life and dead? Who knew every second? And in the bed in Bo's head. How many universes in my life and dead? Who knew every second? Whoa. In the empty wind, full of holes, I'm an instrument. If this is infinite, the center is everything. Turning and smiling. Serves from the outside. Look out, snow is falling again. A pretty painted house in a shitty part of town. You settle down, shoots too loud a bathroom. Then again, maybe that ain't true. What did I Christmas lights. It's summer strong. When I speak, it weakens. I'll just squeeze your hand 3 times. If it's infinite repeats, I'll take the blizzard of 16. Ready now. Take it now. Ready now. Trying to take it all with me, but we forget finally.
I'm Jim Sullivan, and welcome back to Boston Rock Talk. You just heard Cymbals Eat Guitars, and we are here with the lead singer, songwriter, and guitar player, Joe D'Agostino. Correct?
Yeah,
I knew I was
that's
going to
good.
stumble over that. Welcome
okay.
here.
Thank you.
That was a mighty fine racket.
Oh, thanks.
By the
Yeah.
way. Thanks.
Yeah.
That was. We have different kinds of bands on here. We had John Spencer Blues Explosion on before too, and you and they. It's
pretty raunchy.
Right up there in that. Probably place to start here for people who don't know the band is the name itself. It's
Sure.
When I heard it, it made me think, like a phrase, like Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah.
Not that you're, but
Just
and
relax.
Then, yeah. And then Cymbals Eat Guitars. So tell us where that all came from.
It's just a paraphrase of something Lou Reed said about Velvet Underground Records. Why Mo Tucker didn't use any cymbals on the recordings. They
right.
eat up
They
guitars.
eat up guitars. I see.
Yeah.
But you're a drummer. He has cymbals.
He does. He has many cymbals.
Do his cymbals?
Too many.
Do his cymbals ever eat your guitar?
I'm sure they do. What I wouldn't give to just see our band once, but I'll never
Just
be.
see what it sounds
I mean, maybe
like.
I'll watch this. I'll watch this thing and see how that. Yeah.
That's good. You guys started Staten Island, I believe.
Well, I
right?
lived on Staten Island for the past 10 years, but I moved to Philly recently, and I grew up in New Jersey, so just kind of spread out across.
Do you identify with Jersey in any particular way?
I do, yeah. Our records, so you'll deal with that. All kind of deal with Jersey. That's where I grew up. You know, Long Beach Island,
What
but
exit?
on the mainland. Exit 69, actually. Yeah.
That's what we all ask outside of Jersey. Just tell me the exit and I'll know
Yeah.
where you are.
Yeah.
But I was going to say you cover Springsteen's Sandy, but you do not cover.
We do not.
But explain that a little bit. The title is very similar.
It's
on your
layered.
new record. Sorry?
It's a layered title for sure. It's the Springsteen reference.
Yep.
It references the events in the song, which transpired on 4th of July 2015 in Philadelphia. And also the parenthetical title, Sandy, is a reference to Alex G., who's a Philadelphia songwriter who we're friends with, who appears in the song, who I name drop. It's kind of his nom de plume or nom de band camp back in the day, I guess.
What's the event you're talking about in the song then?
Last 4th of July, I had a near-death experience. I got in the car with somebody who was wasted, and I didn't know that they were wasted, and they were driving, and kind of took us on this crazy joyride. It was me and a couple members of Alex G's band, and the driver ran over a fireworks display that was in the middle of the street, and there were families and children all around, and then he stopped the car up the road and got out like an idiot, and the father from the family came over, and he had a gun, and there was some other gentleman with him with a 2x4, and we got pushed to the ground and kind of menaced, and it was super scary. and
Were you seen as one of the bad guys?
well,
because
we were
you'd
in the
been
car, yeah, but
yeah.
I mean, I was luckily I was stone sober and able to explain myself very well. And by this point, the driver had already, ran off. So yeah, it was a scary time.
I don't mean to make light of it because it does sound like a scary time, but at what point in your songwriting head did you say, I'm going to get a song out of this?
Literally 5 minutes after after it happened, or maybe the next day, and started writing it. And then I sent it to the guys in Alex G almost immediately. I was just like, "Are you okay with me name dropping you?" And yeah. So.
Talk a little bit about, I guess, about the band's development. I mean, you've had, from what I understand, I think 5 other people before this lineup solidified.
Yeah,
Would that be about right?
sounds right.
How has that developed for you, and why have you gotten to where you are now?
Well, the first album was I kind of wrote all the parts and dictated them to various band members that I pulled off Craigslist. I was like 18 and 19 at the time. So it was kind of my project in the beginning. But when we had to tour for that album, because it had considerable hype and we were getting tour offers, so we had to go out there, get out there. But all of the guys on the Craigslist version of the band, they couldn't really handle the schedule. They had lives and wives and girlfriends who didn't want them out there.
Other
Yeah,
jobs,
exactly,
yeah,
and
right.
jobs. So they all sort of fell by the by, and I got these guys one at a time.
Oh, did you go on Tinder for this one? To
Yeah.
find them, or?
Yeah, I didn't use any kind. We actually, hilariously enough, because it seems ridiculous that a band of our stature would hold auditions, but we did hold auditions in 2009, and that is how we got Brian and Matt Whipple, who are keyboardist and bassist.
And your drummer was the last to join?
Andy was the last missing piece of the puzzle, but we would make our sophomore record with the same drummer that played on the first album, and then Andy joined after that. So he played on our last one, Lose, from 2014, and the newest one, Pretty Years.
Can you talk about how the sound has changed or developed over time? I mean, I can hear some things myself, but I'm curious as to what you are saying about how the development went.
College age people like college rock and Built to Spill and Pavement and whatnot, and that's kind of where I was coming from with the first album. It was slavishly indebted to those things. I still think the songs were good, but it was very through composed and lots of sections and outros and extended instrumental jams. And I think just slowly over the past 7 years, we've kind of become more interested in writing songs. I could stop right there. Verse, chorus, bridge, chorus.
When you started, I mean, was that something you said, no, that's too conventional, I don't want to be that kind of band?
I think it was just hyperactive, young creativity. Like I'd write a part that I was excited about, and then I would just slap another one right next. It was kind of accidental, and just the way that the way I did it was accidentally happening for me.
There's a great quote I read of yours in a story, and I think you were talking about this process of songwriting now, and you were talking about learning to or trying to write a big hook, a big chorus that wasn't dumb.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of lyrics and a lot of hooks on the first 2 albums, but I might have been hard pressed to repeat some of them 3 or 4 times in a song. And it's just the poetic nature of the first 2 albums' lyrics that kind of, it might have rang a little false if I had been repeating these lines, but the trick is to write lines that bear repeating, That
you can come back to.
Exactly,
that makes sense,
and it makes sense, yeah.
Move the song along. And it was funny, when I saw that quote, I was thinking of another New Jersey band who writes big dumb choruses like Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Sort of like, you don't want to be Bon Jovi.
Never heard that one. Well, I'd like to have millions of dollars.
Yes, but not exact. Yeah, I know. It's funny. Pretty Years is the new record.
Yes.
Are we to read that as ironically at all, Pretty Years, or just straight up?
It's sort of it's something that I said to Matt, our bassist, when we were on tour for Lose, our last record. We were in the middle of an exhausting run of probably 200 shows for that album, and I was like, we're out here kind of wasting our pretty years, and it was probably in Oklahoma City or somewhere where we played to 10 people and wasn't seeming worth it at that moment. So it's kind of this downtrodden sort of thing. But yeah, we nodded to that kind of in titling the record that, and of course the record cover with the coffin and the vacuum cleaner.
I haven't seen all I have is an advance.
You should check it out.
Digital. I haven't seen. Okay, what is? Tell people. What do you get?
It's a photo by a London photographer named Joe Broughton. It's actually an empty porn set, and it's part of a series of hers. She worked in a porn studio as a janitor early in her career, and one of the perks was they would allow her to photograph the sets. She wanted to photograph the sets empty, and there's this wonderful haunting quality to that series of photos. And we contacted her, and we asked for permission to use some of them.
So it was her concept for that?
Yeah, her concept entirely, and Matt Whipple just found just found her photos somewhere on the internet, and we hit her up.
And you said, how did you see it dovetailing with the music?
I think that some of the lyrical concerns on the album are about feeling older than you are and aging quicker because of the nature of the lifestyle of being in a touring band and being away 9 months out of the year, that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I can see that. I think it was the New York Times wrote something about you that made sense to me after I was listening to the music and reading some of the lyrics. They were talking about you being sort of a sidelong storyteller.
Yeah.
Which I think kind of means there are fragments of songs that may or may not add up, but there is a story in there. Would you agree with that sort of assessment, or?
Absolutely.
You think, yeah.
Yeah, on some songs and some records more than others. And but on our new album, there's a straight up narrative song, 4th of July. So there's little snatches and little pieces of stories in almost every song, because what you live kind of informs, or at least for me, informs lyrics.
Do songs have to have a meaning to you or to the audience? Or?
No, of course not. I mean, of course, everything's probably going to have meaning to the audience, but at this point, I would struggle to explain the meaning of some of my older songs for sure, because it just escapes, and then it's gone, and it is what it is.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's like chasing vapor, you know.
It's good. So in songwriting, did you shift then for this new record in that sense? I mean, or would you still say that's kind of your philosophy?
I think with this record, more than any of the others, I tried not to overthink lyric writing, and I tried to write as I talk, and I'm just trying to move in that direction more and more. Something that sounds like a real voice, my real voice. So that was kind of the goal.
I want to ask you about the relationship between melody, which you've got, and noise, which you've got, and I mean that in a good way. How do you see those two working with each other to make songs work better?
Well, my favorite record when I was 15 and 16 and 17 was Yankee Hotel Foxtrot by Wilco. And that kind of brought me into the fold as far as using noise to highlight the poppier side of songwriting. And just from obsessing over that record, which uses like noise passages juxtaposed with really peppy, just classic kind of pop songwriting, that was something that I became interested in very early on. So it's always going to probably be in the blood of our music.
In the DNA of what you do. I guess also sort of, I think you guys, one of the things you do well too is, I mean, the different kinds of emotions that are in songs, sometimes in the same song or maybe over the course of a set. You seem, I guess, in some ways an agitated person or angry at some level, I guess.
Yeah.
Passionate, I mean, it varies, I suppose. And it comes out, I guess, most when you're straining.
Yeah.
And I want to ask too, does that take a toll on your voice? I mean,
no.
You're really okay with that?
Yeah, Well, my life changed in 2009 because I took one vocal lesson from Melissa Cross, who is a New York City-based vocal instructor. She teaches like Lamb of God, like death metal and grindcore guys how to scream every night and not hurt themselves. So I saw her and I started doing the vocal exercises almost every day when we perform. And it's like meditation. You just get there, and what I realized is that singing is mostly mental, mostly 95%. And if you're not thinking about the wrong things and you're just clear, you won't strain yourself physically.
Was this just one lesson with her then?
I took one, and that's how it began. And then I think before our second and third albums, before I went into the studio, I took 2 more lessons from her. But it's 3 total. But that's all it took.
What kind of warm up do you do before the show then?
It's 14 exercises, and it's just kind of hard to describe, but it's sounds just ahs and ohs and yas. At some points you're doing falsetto, and at some points you're yelling, but it's all about getting you in this space where you're projecting out and over, as opposed to like trying to force something up and out of yourself. It's very hard to articulate, but Melissa does a really good job of articulating it and explaining the physical elements of it. So it just makes sense, and you don't think about it after a while.
That's great, because I think people. That's a great insight. People who don't know that, they hear you and go, "Oh my God! Every night he must be drinking hot tea. He must, to do all that." But no, not at all.
Whiskey. No, I'm kidding. No.
You write a lot about, I think, your youth, conflicts that went on in your youth. Not that you're an old man now, but how old are you? You're what?
I'm 27.
27.
I'll be 28
I thought you
soon.
were mid-20s, late 20s. But yeah, it seems like your teenage years still affect who you are, what you write about. True?
Definitely true. I Lose, our last album, 2014, dealt with some pretty specific things that happened towards the end of my teenage years, losing a best friend to a heart condition in his sleep, and I'm still concerned with childhood. My childhood. I write about it often, and I'm inspired by the landscape that I grew up in Jersey, because we had the Pine Barrens and we had the beach, and there's a lot of beauty there that I see, and it inspires me.
Is there a Jersey mythology? I mean,
Oh, of course.
yeah.
Yeah.
What would you describe it as then? I mean, what is that?
Well, I mean, foremost, of course, people think of Springsteen, but if you deeper into the indie rock canon, you have Yala Tango and the Wrens, and people who wrote really meaningfully about towns in New Jersey, kind of, and small, mundane things that they were able to amplify to seem cosmically important. So that's basically my whole thing.
That's good. Do you? We saw you play 3 songs here, and you're going to take us out with another one. Do you stay pretty close to the arrangements that you do on record when you play live, or do you stretch out some?
It varies. It depends whether the song lends itself to being stretched out. There are a few songs that we use as set closers that we really go wild with, and 10-minute, 12-minute versions of things. And generally, a song will change 2 or 3 times. We'll have the version that we go into the studio with, and then we work with a producer, and he will put his spin on it, not necessarily songwriting, but just the sonic touches that he might use, and then we go back and rehearse for 4 months before the record comes out and replicate what's happening on the record, or embellish a little more and develop a little more.
This one was produced by the guy who produced the Swans as well, right?
John Congleton,
yeah.
St.
I love
Vincent.
the Swans.
He won a Grammy
that's right,
2014 for her record.
That's good. What did he bring to the party?
An easygoing kind of attitude. I sent him extensive demos in the months leading up to April when we recorded with him, but I didn't hear much from him. And then when we got in the studio, we just kind of played the songs, and I once or twice we'd play the songs, and then I'd do vocals, once or twice.
No
and
retake, not many retakes, not many.
No,
Yeah.
I think his opinion, or at least as far as our music goes, you know, he was more interested in capturing a live feel and just that kind of danger of something that might implode at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
And his production touches are definitely ear-catching in that way. That kind of adds to that danger and that element of surprise.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just wanted to make, every time we want to make something that surprises people, but this time more than ever, we wanted to surprise people with the sonics of the record.
Right.
Big round drums.
Good point. First love song on this record, right?
Yes.
I think you've said
Yeah.
Have a Heart.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
How come?
Because I'm in love.
Did you fall in, I was
But
going to say, did you fall in love?
Yes, yes, but I actually wrote it before I was in love. I was just challenging.
You were picturing yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Challenging myself to kind of write something that we a song that we don't have in our catalog. Yeah.
Right, the one, and true, it became reality for you.
It did.
That's
yeah.
great. That's great. You're going to take us out here with a song called "Wish."
That's right.
And you want to just tell me a little bit about that? What are you wishing for here?
Wish is kind of just a general song of regret of things left unsaid. It's not about any one particular person, but the keyboardist who played on our first album, we lost him last August. And of course my friend who I mentioned earlier, who I wrote some songs on Lose about, just you know, all the various friends that have either cycled out of my life or are no longer in the world, which sounds really heavy, and it is, but the arrangement and the song itself is really fun and peppy and energetic. So there's that tension.
I think that's a great tension to bring to it, I think, because, I mean, there's obviously a sense of conflict in the music itself.
Yeah.
And yet, the release, the catharsis, if you will, I guess.
I
mean,
yeah.
Is there catharsis for you playing these things?
There was catharsis in just when you finally release something, you know, you make a record and then you have to wait 5 months for it to come out, and you're sitting with it and it's only yours, and you're just in love with it, and then you just let it go, and that's definitely extremely cathartic. Like, I'll never listen to our records now. Probably, I will never listen to Pretty Years again. Maybe.
No need to.
Maybe
But
in like
how
5
about
years.
how about when those songs come up on stage? Do you feel that then, or is it?
I'm more about. I'm not thinking so much about the emotional content of what went into making the song at that point. It's more about giving people the show,
The execution
and
of
doing it well.
Exactly.
Just,
Great.
yeah.
And so, thank you very
Jim.
much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
This has been Boston Rock Talk with Cymbals, Eat Guitars. Joe D'Agostino has been our guest, and they'll take us out with Wish. Thanks much.
And it's ahead of the event horizon. Your pupils pinpoints of my gigantic. I watch the way distant trees. The possibilities of sand into me. Access invisibly trashed. Streetlights flicker on as you pass them. You light a sailor, stole from your aunt. You're just so handsome. After that, when you say the same blood runs through us, leave all unmaintained that I'm different. Years pass, I wish I could show you hold you. 11 months and not a word from you. But then out of the long dark blue, like a busted dealer, like a son and daughter, you in the shower. Nothing's so wrong when you say the same blood runs through us. Me though, I maintain that I'm different. Years pass, I wish I could show you, and I wish that I told you. I could show you, and I wish I could hold you.